I always struggled with staying on track, and I always struggled with like achieving my goals and sticking to my routines. And I've learned that I cannot force myself to create a new version of myself, the best version of myself, without letting go the old version of myself. So this video is about like me discussing how I learned like how I can actually create the new version of myself. And I think this is a great example, which is that people who are successful are constantly letting go of old versions of themselves. And the best example is like if you struggle with like if you want to be someone who's like confident, someone who's disciplined, and you're someone who's not confident, you're someone who has a lot of insecurities, and maybe those insecurities are tied to like a lot of trauma that you've had growing up, and then you need to first direct and look at it from where this is coming from, and you need to heal that and let go of that so you can start actually becoming a confident version of yourself. And this can be a great example as well, like when you are constantly binge eating. People have like binge eating disorders, and if you have like a lot of addictions with like your phone, and people also have like really bad addictions that they have, that usually comes from you suppressing your emotions. Like you try to do something, it does not work out, and you just feel terrible about yourself. But this is something that you've learned. You're just stuck in a loop that you've had in your head ever since you were growing up, and you still did not direct that. You still did not let go of that. And you're like, why is this not working out? And I think the best example is the Prophet ﷺ said that when a child is born, like they have a blank, they're like the example of them is like a blank piece of paper. And so, like growing up, you're told everything that you're told growing up as a child is what will be on that paper. So if you're constantly told like you're not enough, you cannot achieve anything, and like all these negative things, like all the beliefs that you have in your life is filled in this paper. Your beliefs about friends, your beliefs about money, your beliefs about life in general. And if you want to live a different life, be a different version of yourself, or even attract abundance, you first need to look at your paper. You need to first look at who am I right now? Like write that down. Before you write down the version of you that you want to become, write down who am I in details. And I think I always used to do this in a way where I would just simply focus on, oh, this is who I want to become, this is what I want, and I would just focus on the details, but I would not focus on, okay, who am I right now? What is holding me back right now? What things have I learned, and what loops am I stuck in my mind right now? And how can I address that? How can I let go of that so I can have space for the new version of myself? So yeah, like it's not as easy as just like addressing the emotion or addressing the old version of yourself and immediately letting go, but just looking at it, realizing it where that is coming from, and you can immediately move on from that. Like for example, the first example that I had about addressing how I felt about something, for example, once I started I'm going to have a really vulnerable example over here, but once I started my filming my YouTube videos and my social media videos, I did not go as viral as quickly as I thought that I would. And because of that, I felt like really heartbroken. Like I couldn't even continue. I was not having the motivation to continue. And for me, I was kind of like weirded out. I was like, why am I feeling this way? Because for me, when I had the mindset of when I was starting my social media and filming videos, it was because I was like, you know what? I'm going on this journey of trying to heal and trying to improve myself. And I like to share and talk about these things because I don't have a lot of people to talk to. And maybe someone can watch my video, even if it's one person, and they can benefit from that. They can feel less lonely and they can learn from something. That is what I had in mind. And I think I realized that this came from a place growing in childhood. I did not have as much attention and I felt like really abandoned growing up. And it kind of felt that the same thing was happening right now. So it wasn't just about getting the views. And that's how I was feeling really disheartened because of that. And so when you feel disheartened about something and you feel like this really big reaction to something that's normal to you, instead of just ignoring that, instead of just thinking, oh, I'm lazy, I need to be more motivated, just like really talk to yourself, like really try to figure out where is this coming from. And then you can focus on healing that wound and let it go of that wound. And once you do that, you can finally continue with your intention of improving yourself. So yeah, like another example is when I usually wake up in the morning, I look at my life and I don't feel like getting out of bed and doing anything. And I would think like, what would the best version of myself do? Like, would she just stay in bed or would she get up, pray, and start doing her workout? Like, also start asking yourself that. Like, you're constantly acting in the loop of the old version of yourself. Whenever you get up and you're feeling a certain way, a negative way, that's the old version of yourself. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to become a new version of yourself that's disciplined, that's energetic, that's happy, that's amazing and free. And you start to embody the new version of yourself. Like, it's not going to be this easy thing where you immediately flip a switch and now you're living the old version of yourself and now you let go of the old version of yourself. There's going to be times where you're thinking in a negative way because of the old version of yourself. And what you can do is think like, okay, what would the new version of me do? And you immediately start embodying the new version of yourself. Like, literally act, if that would help. And I also would see, like, when I look at people who are successful, just know that they started from the ground up. Like successful songwriters, successful content creators. It's not because that they flipped the switch and became successful. It's because that they embodied the version of themselves that are content creators. They embodied the version of themselves that are artists, and they went for that and they let go of the old version of themselves. So I think that's the most important thing. The second thing is that I've learned, stop reacting to life and start acting to life. And I think this is the same example of letting go of the old version of yourself. Like, if something bad would happen and you would feel bad about yourself, and immediately you're trying to suppress your emotions, and you're gonna be on your phone for, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days, a week, and you reacted to life, and what you reacted to is what will happen in your life. The same example with my YouTube videos. Like, if I looked at my numbers going down and I was like, okay, I'm not being the content creator that I wanted, and I stopped creating content, I reacted to life. And once you start acting to life, that is when you create the best version, the version and the reality that you actually want to live in. You know, like the same example with creating content. Like, if you're creating content and you're not getting the results that you wanted, but instead of reacting to the results that you got, you acted to it and you said, you know what, I'm going to improve this. You know what, I'm going to keep going. You know what, I'm going to try to be more confident. I'm going to try to be more energetic. And as you do that, you create the version of you that's actually a content creator. You create the version of you that's actually disciplined and someone who actually goes to the gym every single day. So, yeah. And the third thing is, how do you talk to yourself? What stories do you tell yourself? And this is something that truly blew my mind, because it's something that I would do all the time. Like I constantly tell myself the story of like, oh, I'm sad and this is my life and I don't have any money and I don't have any views, and but you know what? I'm going to change one day. But you're looking at your life from the eyes of lack. You're looking at lack, you're believing in lack, and as you go on, you start acting as lack. You cannot think a certain way, tell yourself a certain way, believe a certain way, and expect yourself to act differently. Like the human brain and the human body does not work like that. So if you tell yourself that, you know what, I'm sad and my life is so sad, but I'm going to try to be energetic. It doesn't work that way. And I started to tell myself stories where I'm like, you know what? I've actually learned a lot. I've actually come a very long way. And I've actually had a lot of transitions in my life. And I've actually learned a lot. And I'm actually going to create the version of my life that I want. And that is what I tell myself. And that is what I start to believe. And that is what I also start to act and embody into my life as well. So, yeah, like also from the version of like having goals and not being able to achieve these goals, it's because you're telling yourself, you're thinking from a place of I'm incomplete, I'm imperfect, I don't have any values. That is what you're constantly telling yourself, and you're like, oh, you know what, I need to change, I need to do this and that. And it's really sad because God has created you as a complete human being. There's no incomplete in you. You maybe, obviously, us as humans, we constantly need to learn and we constantly need to evolve, but that does not mean that you're incomplete. It means that you're growing, and that is the way of human life. And every single time I would realize I made a mistake, every single time I would realize and learn something new, I would see myself. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is proof that I'm incomplete. This is proof that I don't know anything. And that's not true. So, like, just be delusional. Like, just tell yourself every single day that I can do this. I can create this version that I want of my life. And you constantly tell yourself that. Like every single time you would think like, even if you look yourself in the mirror and you think like, oh, I don't look good today, tell yourself, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. Or you have work to do and you're like, oh, I don't really feel like doing that work. Like tell yourself, yes, I can do it. I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then you start doing that. And once you start telling yourself over and over again, you start to believe it, you start to think it, and you also start to act that way. And once you act that way, that is what you'll create into your life. And the interesting is I was listening to this interview where a guy was asking a woman, I will put her podcast down below. I've learned a lot from her. But she was basically talking about manifesting. And he was like, oh, you know what? He was like asking her the question of like, how do people manifest? Like, I had this idea of like, I don't know how to manifest. I really can't manifest. I've never manifested into things into my life. That is what I was thinking. And I was really eager to know the answer to this question. And she was like, you know what? We as humans are constantly manifesting things into our life. And she was like, look at the life that you're living right now. Look at the version that you are right now. Look at the things and the people and the environment that you're living right now, because that is what you're manifested and that is what you're continuing to manifest. And that was really interesting to me, and it really kind of blew my mind, because everything that you're thinking, everything that you know, and the actions that you're taking is what becoming your life right now. And I would always constantly think like, oh, I'm not in charge of my life. Like we as humans constantly think that we're not in charge and we're not manifesting, but you constantly already are. Like the version of yourself that you are right now is something that you're deciding to be every single day, subconsciously or consciously. So start to actually be aware of your actions and your thoughts, and you'll realize that those actions and your thoughts that you're having every single day is the reason why you're living the life that you're living right now. So yeah, also the same thing with like people who think like, oh, who am I and how can I be this person? Or you know what, I'm stuck as this way. I'm stuck as being a person who has no dreams and ambitions and all these things. And you think that you're not in control of who you are. Like I have a lot of siblings who are like that. And you are the driver, if that makes sense. There was this TikTok that I was watching where a woman was like, you are deciding the version that you are every single day. Like there's no version of you that's complete. There's no version of you that you are. It's just the version of you is the actions and the thoughts and the things that you're doing every single day. Like there's no complete version of you. There's just actions. That is who you are. So you are the driver, you are the writer, you are the producer, and you're every single day writing your story. That is what you're deciding subconsciously. So just be aware. Be aware of who you are, be aware of your thoughts, start being more aware of yourself. Think about it. Every single time you have a reaction, like, where is this coming from? Journal more, meditate. That really helped a lot for me. And I think the most important thing to do is to start taking action. Wherever you are in your life, no matter how big or small, look for something that you want. What do I want? What do I like? And start taking actions towards that. Because I kind of felt like I was at rock bottom and I felt like there's nothing that I can do. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start trying to make content. I'm just going to start to have small habits and goals that I put into my life. And because of those goals that I've made, I have learned so much about myself. I have learned so much about life. And there's this scientific example that I've heard in a book that I was listening to. I really don't remember. But the example was that imagine we all live in a fish tank. And all we do is swim around in the fish tank. We think about life. We blame other people. We blame life. We're constantly thinking about what's inside the fish tank. And then someone decides, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to get out of here. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to try to swim away as further as I can. And once you start to do that, you hit the glass in your head and you realize like, oh, I'm actually stuck. I actually am mentally need to get out of here. I'm making the worst example. Damn. But basically, just taking actions, no matter how big or small, is what will literally save you. Just move. Wherever you are in your life, start moving. Because once you move, you come across obstacles, you come across pain, and you look at that pain and you look at that obstacle, you're like, what is this? Where is this coming from? And you study it, and you learn so much about yourself, and you learn so much about life, and you realize what all the things that you were doing wrong all along. You realize that you are actually the problem, not in a really bad victim blaming, self blaming kind of way, but I am the problem, but at the same time, I am the solution. So, yeah, all the solutions that you need is actually inside of you. You don't need to look around the world and look at other people and look for help and all these things. Like, you possess the value and the abundance and the love that you want, and you just need to start tuning into that. So yeah, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I made sense. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.